Since 1995, over 26,000 international students from all walks of life joined the British investigators' training courses in anomalous phenomena within ufology, paranormal and supernatural, parapsychological study, anomalous phenomena, science, hypnotherapy, spiritualism, astrology, astronomy, cryptozoology, and many other areas. Our certified self-study courses will teach you how to assess, analyze, engage, formulate, document, and be cognizant of all types of phenomena, suitable for light workers and starseeds, curious personalities and inquisitive minds, skeptics alike and truth seekers. For more information, please visit www.stellaruniversity.com.
And thus, I began researching on one of the most fascinating secret facilities known, namely Area 51 in Nevada. And I will show you that we are being conditioned for an upcoming event closely tied in with biblical prophecy. I would like to begin the slide presentation of Area 51 and the secrets behind this facility, which is also known as Dreamland. And I will show you that Dreamland is not just a nickname, it has a meaning. In fact, it's my contention that Dreamland is an acronym for Data Repository Establishment and Management Land. Let's see the slide. Area 51 is located in a vast desert stretch of land north of Las Vegas, Nevada. This location, known as Area 51, occupies only one portion of this vast stretch of area, hundreds of square miles, called Nevada Test Site. Among the military pilots at Nellis Air Force Base, which is located right next to Las Vegas, this particular area, Area 51, is known as the box, or the red square, or the black box. And none of the military pilots from Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas are allowed to fly over this particular area, known as Area 51. This area, also known as R-4808N by commercial airline chart of pilots, comprises of the Groom Lake facility and also the alleged facility known as Sector 4, right alongside the Papoose Mountains, which is about 10 miles away from each other. This entire area is known as Area 51 or Dreamland. Government maps do indicate that there is such an area, but yet the government itself denies to the public that there is such an area. Government maps clearly indicate the facility and part of the schematics of Groom Lake facility and Sector 4 area, clearly indicating the schematic, part of the schematic maps of the buildings at Groom Lake complex. Again, Sector 4 or S4 area, south of the Groom Lake complex. Air Force maps also indicate that there is an Area 51, part of Nevada Test Site, next to the Nellis Range and also the Nevada Test Site, and again Area 51, Groom Lake complexes. Yet if you call the Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas, they will deny that such an area exists. In 1968, several persons happened to find this facility while they were hiking on one of those hills that belong to the looming Groom Mountains. And they happened to stumble upon this strange facility built right next to a dry lake. And this is a 1968 photo showing some strange antennas and some hangars by the lake. You can almost see the, you can actually see the chain link area right here. This is a semi-dry lake. And in 1968, there were already many hangars around this facility, in this on this lake. Now, frequency charts of Nellis Air Force Base definitely tell you that the facility exists. These are all the ranges of Nellis Air Force Base. For example, range 61, range 62, range 5, range 12, and so on. And also there are frequency charts for Groom Lake military operations area. This whole facility, of course, is a military operations area. Again, you see Dreamland right there. And again, the strange thing is that this is a conglomerate facility mainly conducted by Lockheed, but also other defense contractors. For example, Los Alamos National Laboratory of New Mexico is heavily involved in this program. Sandia Corporation, a huge defense corporation in Albuquerque, New Mexico, is very much involved in this facility. Also, EG&G Corporation. And surprisingly enough, there is an agency right there that is also involved. It's the FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency. These agencies are all involved in this secret program at Area 51. Again, Nellis Air Force Base charts, frequency charts, shows the frequency for Dreamland, which is associated with the stealth technology. Dreamland, stealth, Department of Energy, all under Nellis control. Again, Dreamland is an acronym for Data Repository Establishment and Management Land, which I will explain in a few more minutes. It's an amazing facility. U.S. Geological Survey maps also show these two lakes. However, on this particular map, I have drawn a straight line over Groom Lake to indicate a 50,000-foot runway, the world's longest runway. Again, as I mentioned, Groom Lake and S4, or Sector 4 facility, the alleged facility, only is about 10 or 11 miles apart. These buildings right by the Papoose Lake are our estimation of these buildings. You cannot see these buildings from the satellite, so it's just our estimation. Now, in 1985, the state of Nevada passed the request from the federal government to close off a total of 90,000 acres of public land surrounding these facilities. And again, the reason for that being that in the 80s and 70s and 60s, a lot of hikers and hunters happened to find these facilities. They have seen some strange lights maneuvering over the skies, over Groom Lake. And again, so 1985, the government closed off all these Groom ranges and also the Papoose ranges and Jumble Hills area, so that nobody can see these facilities from the horizon. The closest place you can watch the ongoings is on Highway 375 and also nearby dirt roads, which still belong to the public land. This area, again, indicates the militarized zone, restricted area. Again, Area 51 is towards the southwest of this area. Now, this area is all part of the Bureau of Land Management, the public land. We have every right to be on any of the public lands. Yet, there are military sensors being planted on any of these public dirt roads that lead to Area 51. Of course, this is illegal. No question that they are hiding something. On top of Bald Mountain on the Groom mountain range. There's a 360-degree view of the entire area, and from Bald Mountain they're using some amazing high-tech equipment. They can detect any motion 30 miles away, 360 degrees. And of course 15 miles away from this area they can detect how many persons are there in the car, parked right next to the Highway 375 at any given moment. In 1968, Russian satellite photos succeeded in taking the picture of the Groom Lake facility from the air, indicating a long runway. Again, it's strange that the Russians, the Soviet Union in 1968, knew about this facility, while the American public wasn't aware of this facility. This is the negative enhancement of the facility taken by the Russian satellite in 1968, and at that time there were many, many buildings already in this facility, including many hangars. In 1983, another Russian satellite photo came out and indicating the addition of runways and extensive roadways, new additional buildings, and many other things that were added. But again, because of the proliferation of satellite technology, the government has decided to move a lot of sensitive equipment underground on these hills, foothills of these mountain ranges. So everything is underground. You cannot take a picture of a Groom Lake facility unless you take a panoramic view, okay? There are 3,000 buildings in this facility, but yet the government says there are no such facilities in Nevada. There are 3,000 employees being flown to this area, and they have a 3 to 4 month shift, and yet the government says there's no Area 51. This is one of the best pictures of the facility, taken from a hill that the Air Force missed in 1985 when they took 90,000 acres of public land. They happened to miss 2 hills from where one can still see Groom Lake facility. Now, there is a big hangar, and this hangar is officially known as Hangar 18. There is amazing symbolism in all of these things at Area 51. There is a meaning. This is an official name, Hangar 18, as I will show you in the charts. Now, this is the closest photo of this facility going from north to left, north to south, okay? For example, a huge satellite dish pointing upwards to the sky, and then another satellite dish, many, many buildings, and I'm going south. Many hangars exist, and many underground. There's no question that there are underground facilities on all of these areas. Many, many dormitories for workers, engineers, and other scientists, highly compartmentalized. Many, many buildings, yet the government says this doesn't exist. Now, the reason is this is funded by what's known as the Super Deep Black Projects programs. You can see the control tower of the airport and a huge hangar, again, Hangar 18. This is perhaps the closest photo of this facility ever taken, and unfortunately, we cannot see this facility anymore because the government took 4,000 acres and finalized the withdrawal of this additional 4,000 acres just about a month ago, on March 31st, 1995. Nobody can see the facility anymore. At nighttime, you can see you could have seen this big facility. It's almost like a city in itself, yet the government says there's no such a facility. But we have successfully gotten some schematic maps of the buildings, each of the buildings, from some of the people associated inside the facility. And again, I thank God that we have even some friends, even in this facility, that occasionally give us some information. I believe that this is not a coincidence. Here's the schematic map of each of these buildings. There are theaters, tennis courts, restaurants, you name it, in this facility. There are at least 1,500 separate buildings, not counting the underground facilities. Now, this is the official maps of the chart of the buildings. You see the new number and the old number. The new number and the old number. The reason being is that the more buildings are being built as I speak right now. There are many different types of buildings. The operator's office trailer, DICOM's radar building, and also the location. It gives you the streets. There are street names for this facility. Many buildings. For example, let's look at the steam plant, Canal and 2nd Street. This is an official chart smuggled out. And this proves that this is not just a small facility. It's a huge facility in Nevada. Area 51. Look at the number of dormitories. There are many dormitories that accommodate workers, both classified and possibly other workers, but engineers, scientists. But the thing is that they are all working in a highly compartmentalized jobs that they're given. So they have no idea of what the general picture is. Nobody knows except for the person that has devised this amazing facility. Hangar 8, Hangar 7, Hangar 12, and so on. You can clearly see the buildings right here. Building number 704, site radar, and so on. Generator buildings, and so on. All of these places are indicated. The mystery at Groom Lake. Last year, Sheila Widnell, the new Air Force Secretary, and Sheila Widnell was appointed, of course, by the Clinton administration, particularly Hillary Clinton. She was one of the officials appointed by Hillary Clinton, and she is the main persons behind this closure of 4,000 acres of public land surrounding Groom Lake. People have told the Newsweek of the night flights of a craft that, judging from its lights, has extraordinary maneuverability, from Newsweek. Again, a show was held in Las Vegas, and basically that was the land grab public hearing. The government knew that they could take this area very easily, but they had to have some type of a public hearing, and the public hearing was held in Las Vegas. More than 300 people attended this public hearing, including myself. Las Vegas Review-Journal said, speaker after speaker at a BLM hearing questions the plea for a buffer zone around Groom Lake site. In other words, have been creating a buffer zone to the buffer zone. Again, this was reported on CNN, and again, CNN happened to just take the picture of myself speaking, and rather than any other person, there were about 30 persons spoke against the seizure of public land. Now, some of the workers at Groom Lake facility are now coming out accusing the government that they were exposed to some dangerous toxic materials. And Las Vegas Review-Journal reporter tried to investigate, and he has, of course, found a lot of things that are not right over there. In fact, we believe that a criminal investigation must be launched. Now, U.S. News and World Report came out with this report saying that the Environmental Protection Agency and the Justice Department have launched a coordinated criminal investigation into alleged violation of federal environmental statutes at Area 51, the top secret Air Force base at Groom Lake, Nevada, which the federal government will not even acknowledge exists. The problem is that in my opinion, the Environmental Protection Agency itself must be investigated. The Justice Department itself must be investigated. They shouldn't be the ones to investigate the criminal ongoings of Area 51. Did you know that our high, hard-earned tax dollars are being wasted in some of these black projects programs? And granted, some of the technology is definitely maybe legitimate for our national defense. Yet we have found out that a lot of these technologies will be used against the citizenry, not against potential foreign countries, but against the citizen. This is what is happening right now. The land grab situation was completed on March 31st. It was signed by the state director of BLM in Nevada. The final article on Area 51 appeared on April 11th of 1995 in Las Vegas Review-Journal, stating that this is done, this is over with. No more peaking this facility. We're talking about America's new secret aircraft being test flown at Area 51, and they have been going on for the last 20, 30 years. And this is an artist's conception of what is known as Aurora spy plane. And these are other versions, possibly a version known as Black Manta or TR-3A, another new generation of amazing high-tech spy planes. Pumpkin seed program, a diamond-shaped craft that can go very, very fast. We're told that some of these can go at least 9 to 13 times the speed of sound. Jane's Defense Weekly, the world's most respected defense magazine, says that the estimate is anywhere from 8 Machs up, so that's a conservative estimate. 8 Machs means 8 times the speed of sound. Now, some of the other things that are being test flown over there, or that had been test flown during the 80s and early 90s, is this Black Manta. This can hover up to 100 miles from its target, collecting photographs and eavesdropping. Notice, eavesdropping. These are basically surveillance aircraft that are being readied for what I believe to be some type of controlled society coming upon us, the New World Order. This is one of the most amazing photos taken by the United States Meteorological Survey satellite around 1974 that shows an artificial object darting out from the clouds. This was taken over the sky between Kamchatka Peninsula of the Soviet Union and Alaska. And this was in 1975, or 73. Sikorsky has been coming up with this unmanned aerial craft. Basically, this is a surveillance equipment. Low humming sound, can hover over housetops and take amazing photographs and surveillance. Now, this is a low technology coming from Sikorsky. We're not talking about major aerospace, for example, Lockheed and so on. Imagine what Lockheed may have. This is the picture of some of our groups, Civilian Intelligence Network, at Highway 375, right near a curious black mailbox over there, which belonged to a rancher that lived near this area. Again, on the night of December of 1990, we had witnessed some amazing things coming towards the public area, the valley, public area on public land from the Groom Mountains. This picture is was an actual speck of light which was taken by our associate in 1990 on February the 20th while he was standing right near that mailbox looking towards Groom Mountain Ranges, a distance of about I would say 11 to 12 miles, maybe 13 miles, and initially he just noticed a speck of orange light hovering above the hills. But upon going back home and developing this photo, he noticed that this wasn't just a speck of light. He magnified that photo, the film, and lo and behold, he began to see some type of a dome structure on this object. Definitely this wasn't a helicopter or a regular aircraft. We believe this to be a metallic, controlled, man-made object resembling a disk. It's clear that this is a disk. The reason of why these type of objects always seem to have a blurrish effect is because I think it's some kind of a force field is usually created around these objects that emanate light. Now, my brother-in-law took this photo of a bright object on December 1990 while 30-car caravan were observing the ongoings of Area 51 from a distance of about 15 miles, looking over the Groom Lake mountains. And of course, Groom Lake is beyond this mountain on the other side. But again, suddenly, a bright object arose from above, right here, from beneath, right here. And the entire object had a tremendous glow. We were looking at an object that apparently was emitting its own light, incandescent light. And again, we're not talking about regular aircraft. This is another picture of the same similar object. However, this time we approached about 5 miles closer. And again, you could see some type of a dome. Sometimes these objects come in front of the hills, as you can see in these pictures. Now, this is not a picture of the unidentified craft. This is the typical picture of what's known to be flares, military flares. Right next to Area 51 is a program going on called the Red Hat program, in which top military jets from Nellis Air Force Base practice the so-called exercises, air maneuvering exercise. But this has nothing to do with Area 51. It's right nearby, but not on or around Area 51. These are some of the pictures showing the movements of these craft. This was, of course, for example, the movements were so amazing, with amazing turns, almost like a zigzag motion, sudden descension and ascension. And this is what we're talking about, as it was reported in International Defense Review, which is Jane's Defense Weekly subsidiary publication, 1991 issue of March. They had an amazing article, if you can focus this. The United States Naval Research Laboratory is using connection machines to run its BEAST program, Battle Engagement Area, Simulator and Tracker, a real-time space battle management simulator funded by the SDI for the DARPA, Defense Advanced Projects Agency. This is basically the connection machine that will compute up to 7 times faster than a Cray computer for functionally equivalent optimized 3-dimensional code. And basically, in layman's terms, this is nothing else other than the launchable computer linking station that could be launched in the air to link the world's data network systems. And this is the reason for this acronym of DREAMLAND, Data Repository Establishment and Management Land. Again, we're talking about massive parallel computing system. This same article goes on to say that Lockheed Aeronautical Systems is also making this connection machine for computational fluid dynamics. This example of CEM research shows radar reflections from a large saucer-shaped object that are computed using the physical optics approximation. Again, this is the saucer-shaped object, and basically it's a launchable supercomputer linking station in the air. By the way, the government wants us to familiarize us with this image. This is the universal image of what is known, what has been known as a UFO. It's a brilliant manipulation effort by the government to sensitize us and make us believe in the existence of these so-called alien presence. And this is just a manipulative process. We must not be deceived. Now, we have been harassed many times by a strange military helicopter that approached us on many occasions while we were standing on public land, 20 miles away from the outer perimeters of the area, yet we have been harassed by a blackish, greenish military helicopter. In 1991, this helicopter approached us over our cars as we were driving out of the area. All seven cars in a caravan driving 50 miles per hour on dirt road trying to get out of this area, and yet for 18 straight minutes we were harassed by this helicopter that flew 5 to 10 feet above our cars. And we reported this incident to the Los Angeles Times, and they had a small article, and Los Angeles Times tried to contact Nellis Air Force Base for an explanation, and of course Nellis Air Force Base denied that there was such an area. And again, we were harassed by Lincoln County Sheriff Department, which takes orders from an anonymous security system that surrounds this entire area. We were questioned, our IDs were taken, our social security numbers taken, and so on. Aviation Week recently came out with this amazing new generation of helicopters. They are now incorporating some of the new stealth technology to these amazing helicopters that have amazing capabilities. Almost low humming sound, new type of rotors, and possibly a new type of surveillance equipment. And it's my belief that some of the helicopters seen around this country is definitely linked to some of these operations. This is the Tonopah test range where the conventional stealth program was transferred to. Yet in Area 51, a new type of stealth technology has begun. This was a strange chart shown on television in 1988 in a 2-hour program called UFO Cover-Up Live, a nationally syndicated program shown all across America in 1988 in October, in which the term Area 51 was mentioned for the first time. And this strange chart was flashed on the television screen, and it says Area 51, DARPA, which is the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DIA, and Parapsychology Research Unit, all tied in with the Office of Naval Intelligence. There are many agencies in this country that most people haven't heard of. One of this has recently shown up in LA Times of 1992. Secret spy in the agency, a spy in the sky agency disclosed the existence of National Reconnaissance Office, longest and most closely held secret. Budget exceeds that of the CIA. And again, it says here, National Reconnaissance Office itself, however, will remain almost entirely secret, the budget, of course. This office, jointly operated by the Air Force and the CIA for decades, was officially classified, and its name could not be uttered in public without violating government secrecy regulations. Even Mr. Clinton didn't know that they were building a great building in Maryland that was part of the NRO until last year. He was not aware. Los Angeles Times, for the first time a couple of years ago, mentioned S4 area of Groom Dry Lake, where there is an alleged flying saucer type aircraft being test flown by the Air Force attempt to duplicate flying saucer aerodynamics. Now, the spokesman at Nellis Air Force Base said the base at Groom Lake is so secret it has no telephone numbers he can make public. But the fact is that the facility is there. This is a map of Los Angeles, California, Edwards Air Force Base, China Lake Naval Weapons Center, the nation's largest naval research facility, right in the middle of a desert, and then linking Area 51 in Nevada. One of the secret spy planes, Aurora, allegedly flies over the Pacific Basin and comes towards Los Angeles area over the atmosphere, and from here to Area 51 in a straight line only takes 5 minutes, a distance of about 10-hour driving area from Los Angeles. Yet, this Aurora craft takes only 5 minutes from Los Angeles Basin to Area 51. And this is possibly a 10-year-old technology. This is Edwards Air Force Base north of Los Angeles, highly restricted area. Now, in Los Angeles, outside of Los Angeles, in California, there are secret aerospace facilities, underground facilities. Northrop facility, huge buildings, underground facilities, but there are many strange towers, parabolic antennas, huge cranes, but you don't see any aircraft of any type in this facility. By the way, this facility is located inside a private cattle ranch, and of course this is a camouflage. What's a government facility, related facility, doing in a private cattle ranch? Of course they have something to hide. This is the alleged runway, and this is an alleged elevator shaft of this facility, and you can see a high electronics truck parked over there. Notice the diamond-shaped configuration on this alleged landing strip. This is what we call a silo opening, and this is a picture of a triangular craft being placed on this pylon. The pylon itself is about 70 feet tall, a huge heavy metallic structure upon which an unknown object is placed for radar absorption material. You can see the shadow in this picture of a triangular craft. This is a picture of a sliding underground door that opens up at night, and many commercial pilots had seen the alleged reddish object glowing inside. And again, I believe that parts are being assembled in these California secret facilities that are transported to locations like Area 51 to assemble many of these amazing spy planes and possibly even disc-shaped craft. This is an equivalent of a 4-story building that moves on tracks to cover the object being placed. This is located in a McDonnell Douglas facility, also next to a farm area, 50 miles from Edwards Air Force Base. A Lockheed huge underground facility with a brand new paved road. And again, this is a radio communication tower, so imagine the vastness of this underground facility of Lockheed, all connected possibly by underground tunnel systems with Edwards Air Force Base. This is one of the best pictures of the object that are being tested in California secret facilities. A diamond-shaped craft, a metallic craft, being placed on this pylon, 80 feet tall pylon. This is Lockheed facility, and again the object rotates on its axis, and they're testing the electromagnetic system and the radar evasibility and so on. Notice that in this picture, this diamond-shaped configuration on the runway opens up, and out comes from the underground this object. A great picture of this object at Lockheed's secret facility. I'd like to talk about the southwest of the United States. The southwest of the United States has always been the center, ever since around 1947, of strange ongoings, particularly in New Mexico, where in 1947 an alleged object crashed right near Roswell. Could this have been some type of a true event, or even possibly a staged event as a beginning of some kind of a long manipulative process leading up to right now for some unknown purpose? It's very possible. In 1948, another object allegedly crashed in Aztec, New Mexico. This was in 1948. In Arizona Kingman area, again around 1947 or 1948, an object allegedly crashed. Again, the southwest, ever since around 1947. And folks, 1947 is very interesting because it's 1 year before the State of Israel being formed in 1948. And in 1947, there was no CIA. CIA didn't exist until 1947. It was the successor to OSS. In 1947, the Air Force came into existence, Department of the Air Force. Again, this is not a coincidence. There is a symbolical meaning to all of this. Again, systems that connect Edwards Air Force Base to Nevada test site, Colorado Springs, the underground facilities, NORAD, COG program, as was reported by U.S. News World Report. The government has a program. Huge underground facilities are all over. This is not a figment of imagination. In 1950, we had some amazing tunneling machines using nuclear devices that could go 10 miles an hour, melting the hard, tougher rocks and creating a lot of tunnels. That was 1950. There is a huge helicopter base outside of a small town called Marana between Tucson and Phoenix, Arizona, where even right now you can see about 95 to 100 black helicopters parked. It's a joint facility operated by Central Intelligence Agency and Evergreen Aviation, which is part of the subsidiary of CIA, you know, semi-private organization. Albuquerque, the location of Sandia National Laboratories, Los Alamos National Laboratories, Dulce, New Mexico, Jicarilla Apache Indian Reservation areas. These areas were definitely used by the Los Alamos National Laboratory as possibly a part of a biotechnology experiment and also biological warfare program. Recently, there have been many cases of a strange virus coming out of this area, Four Corners area. New Mexico is a very strange location. Aztec, of course, is a symbol of the ancient Mexican serpent, flying serpent god. That's a symbol. Did they use that on purpose as some kind of a preparation or sensitization? There is a highway 666 been built in 1947 that connects Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. Is this a coincidence? I believe that there's some type of a symbolic parallel development to condition us for certain events that is upcoming. Secret meetings are always held at Los Alamos National Laboratory, and in this instance, this is an announcement by the Navy, Navy's potential role in space. And it says right here, a technological breakthrough that vastly changed warfighting capabilities. An unexpected technology breakthrough that could have an acute impact on naval and other military forces. You see, the Navy is the one that has always controlled all types of information on UFO. It's not the Air Force, the Navy. And again, there's a symbolism. The Bible says that in John, Revelation, John says that I saw a beast arise from the sea. And is this a symbolic thing, or can we interpret literally also? Ever since 1943, there's no question that the United States Navy has been experimenting on a radar technology, a series of radar technology. In order to cover up, they always have to have a cover story. The Philadelphia experiment may be a cover story for the real program that they could have been conducting. Cattle mutilation in the Southwest in the 80s, were they just coincidence? Now, LA Times says that in a recent article, artificial blood from cow is very, hemoglobin passes test, proving that cow's blood is very similar to human blood. After purification process, they could be interchanged in case of national emergencies. Tests of cow hemoglobin in humans okayed. Again, in the early 70s and 80s, tens of thousands of cattle were mutilated in the Southwest. And it's my belief that the government was conducting some type of a genetic biotechnology experiment, possibly linking the microchip implantation technology to certain tissues of animals. But in order to do that, they could have created a cover story linking cattle mutilation to the UFO phenomenon and creating a cover story of alien presence on purpose. Strange thing about New Mexico is that it's high on missing child list. Why New Mexico has so many more missing children than comparable states remains a mystery. This was in Albuquerque Journal of 1992, and it's a fact. By the way, did you know that scientists are now saying that the human brain contains a tiny portion of natural magnetite? And this was known by the military long time ago, but Caltech proved it. Every human being born into this world, and by the way, God made all of us like this. We have natural magnetite particle in our human brain. This is how God made. The Bible says we are wonderfully and fearfully created, but yet mankind can misuse what God has created. And again, this means that tiny magnetic particles in our brains could mean that we could be influenced by certain bombardment of electromagnetic beams or even radio frequencies. Our skull can act also as a speaker system. Again, this is a chart of the frequencies, how radio waves can affect our minds. You see that there are many, many strange towers being built all across the country in the name of cellular telephone relaying towers. But again, could they attach some of these, some of the emission devices, frequency emitting devices, under the guise of telephone system? And by the way, the cellular telephone system uses the very same frequency range as the human brainwave frequency, 800 to 900 megahertz. Did you know that every one of us has a different fingerprint? We are all different individuals. This is, of course, a miracle. The Bible says that God made us individuals. Every person in the world is different. We have different fingerprints. But again, at the same time, scientists have now come and said that, saying that every human individual has a different brain wave, but in general it's between 800 and 900 megahertz, which coincides with the expanding cellular telephone system worldwide. Thank you very much. And now I would like to continue on with this presentation. And right now we'd like to look at some of this microchip technology. Recently on Wall Street Journal, and let me go back to Wall Street Journal of Tuesday, February the 1st, 1994, there was an article that said that nervy scientists move toward union of living brain cells with microchips. Again, microchip technology is coming on our way for a controlling system. As I was talking before, in the past few years, the government has cleverly used the Indian reservation areas to conduct some of the biotechnology experiments and biological warfare programs. And in fact, just a few years ago, an Indian reservation in California, right next to Palm Springs, the Cabazon Indian Reservation, was the location of a series of dangerous experiments, biotechnology and germ warfare. And the journalists that try to expose this, Danny Casolaro, also try to expose the government's theft of a computer system that was developed by a private individual, the so-called PROMIS software program, and that program was illegally stolen by the government. And this journalist, Danny Casolaro, tried to expose this, both two aspects of this amazing things. And again, anybody who tries to expose too much could end up, just like Danny Casolaro. He was killed a few years ago, and this is one of the famous incidents related to the Inslaw case. And I just want to mention this because this is all tied in with what's coming up, the technology, microchips, the biochips, that they can implant the chips inside our, possibly even our circulatory system. And the chips are getting smaller and smaller right now and can be controlled by the scanning and monitoring system that they have developed. Now, recently, people have been complaining of dizziness and other physical symptoms in areas near Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Taos and Santa Fe, scientists baffled by the strange hum that people have been experiencing in New Mexico. Could this be some type of an experimentation on extremely low frequency wave system? Again, an interesting thing is that off the California coast nowadays, people are also beginning to report. About a year ago, reports of low-level thumping sound began occurring off the central California coast. Dubbed the Pacific Heartbeat, large numbers of people began experiencing this enigmatic sound about the same time. And again, this was reported by CNN recently. Strange, low humming sound coming off of the ground and off the coast. Again, are these part of some type of experimentation, or are they getting us ready for something? The Air Force plans radio network for use during nuclear attack. Again, maybe you might have heard about this ground wave emergency network, a grid system being laid all across the United States to link the communication systems all over in case of a nuclear attack. But again, this could just be a cover story for some other programs that we know nothing about. The Gwen system, look at the proliferation of cellular tower, relay towers all across the country. And it's no coincidence that these towers are not just relay towers for cellular frequencies, but because you can see that they don't have to have two cellular towers only about 500 feet apart, or even in cases, some cases 150 feet apart. Usually they are laid, let's say, in a few miles apart, okay? But in California, even in schoolyards of public schools, they are building these towers, cellular towers. And of course, the school systems and you name it, they are glad to have the telephone company install these towers because they get a rental fee of like an income of $3,000 per month. So you see some of these towers being built on a schoolyard or sometimes next to a church. I have a picture of a California, a church, where next to the church there is this tower, strange tower, but all under the guise of cellular relay station or towers. But again, in future, they could possibly attach some devices on these cellular towers for possibly crowd control or behavioral alteration, emission devices. We have lots of information coming to back this up. You see that the telecommunication industry is highly linked with the Department of Defense, the military. It's a basic part of the military now, the telecommunication link. Again, the Gwen system, ground wave emergency network, being placed all across the country. Strangely enough, Al Gore, in November 1982, he was part of the committee and other subcommittees of the United States House of Representatives. He was part of this project known as the Workbook for Participatory Democracy, a Congressional Clearinghouse on the Future, and a Congressional Institute for the Future Agenda. And Mr. Al Gore is definitely one of the proponents of the importance of microwave weapon systems. In fact, he says that offensive microwave weapons offer the potential of using such technologies, and he's talking about non-lethal technologies, as force field or beam weapons which have great destructive power. By the way, Al Gore is a proponent of this technology, the future weapon system based on the so-called non-lethal weapon system, which is just a euphemism for dangerous, mind-damaging weapon systems. And this is a fact. The government has now a tremendous arsenal of this new type of weaponry that can damage our mind. And this is ongoing. And for a long time, China Lake Naval Weapons Station in California desert has been the place of many of this testing of these weapon systems. Electromagnetic beam systems, frequency emission devices, mechanism to disengage electromagnetics of a tank from a distance, and other new types of weapons programs. By the way, as I mentioned, everything is symbolic. The secret government cleverly uses symbolism as a parallel movement to sensitize us for what's coming. I believe that in 1943, when the United States Navy began a series of experiments on radar, they have begun a long series of manipulative process leading up to right now. Strangely enough, the alleged Philadelphia experiment of 1943 was related to this radar technology, and again 1943. And isn't it strange that China Lake Naval Weapons Testing Grounds, the nation's largest, came into existence in 1943, right in the middle of California desert, right next to the right in the Death Valley, and it has 1,126,000 acres of naval research laboratory, naval weapons system, right in the middle of desert. This is not a coincidence. Everything has a symbolic meaning. Wall Street Journal came out with the article a couple of years ago that there are new class of weapon system that could incapacitate foe, yet limit casualties. And of course, these are the non-lethal weapons system, electromagnetic pulses, and other high-tech tricks. Again, we're talking about laser weapons and also infrasound, very low frequency sound generators that could possibly alter the movements or the actions of maybe potential enemies, or possibly civilians in a civilian setting in cities in case of national emergencies, maybe riots. These technologies are here and now. This is not science fiction, and everybody, of course, should be aware that the technology that we are presented with is always, as is the case, 10 to 15 to 25 years old. When the stealth program was revealed in 1987 in Palmdale, when the B-1 bomber was revealed, the stealth bomber, it was already 10 to 12 years old. And journalists were gathered at the hangar of Palmdale facility in 1987, which was already at that time 12 years old. So imagine the state of art of technology that is being kept hidden from the public. Again, according to this Wall Street Journal on the non-lethal weapons, some of the most amazing things could be, for example, hologramic image projection devices. For example, they were talking about this causing the confusion, and also alongside the issuance of calmative chemicals, they were even talking about projecting image and confusing them with hologramic projection in the clouds above them. Perhaps images of Muslim martyrs projected in the atmosphere. Or, as a matter of fact, any type of imagery in the atmosphere. Again, we have been hearing of strange apparitions worldwide nowadays. For example, the apparitions in maybe Medjugorje, in the Philippines. There are many different types of apparitions. Could it be that our technology could be duplicating some of this, the hologramic imagery project? Again, we gotta be very careful. We must not be deceived. The Bible says there will come a time when a great delusion will come. We gotta be very careful not to be deceived by human technology duplicating some what looks like supernatural phenomena. But again, that doesn't mean that there are no supernatural phenomena in this world. The Bible says in these last days deception will come, and the Bible also expressly says that in this world there are spiritual entities. One-third of all the angelic beings created in the universe by God fell long time ago, and I believe that they are demonic entities, possibly in these last days deceiving people and materializing themselves and presenting themselves to be maybe alien entities, and possibly even deceiving some select group of government scientists in this government in operations maybe at Area 51. But again, we're talking about two items simultaneously going on at the same time. There is the unknown spiritual phenomena going on, but yet there is also the technology that can now mimic some of the alleged supernatural type of situations. So we're talking about two separate things, but yet there is a connecting link somewhere. Now let's go to the next slide. There was a secret meeting held in Los Alamos National Laboratory 2 years ago. This is part of the agenda of this classified conference sponsored by Los Alamos National Laboratory. This was in November of 1993, and it was on the use of non-lethal defense. This was part of the program that came out of the conference, a secret meeting which was attended by military officials and scientists and professional level educators and a lot of people from all, elite type of people. Now, one of the guests, of course, was none other than the Honorable Janet Reno. Again, this is very strange because the entire conference was based on the use of non-lethal weapons technology, non-lethal defense technology. Of course, Dr. John Alexander has been working on that in Los Alamos for many years. Peacekeeping operations, again, a National Institute of Justice, less than a lethal program. Again, non-lethal program is a euphemism. It's a dangerous program that can twist the minds of people. For example, Future Technology Conference report, simulation and modeling, key to non-lethal weapons. As I mentioned, the government can simulate a lot of things. It's my conviction that one of these days, and possibly very soon, they could simulate a fake extraterrestrial type of a scenario to cause some panic and cause the government to declare maybe even a partial emergency and martial law situation. This is not just a figment of imagination. Technology is here and now. Now let's go on to the agenda of that secret meeting. Technology presentation, acoustic technology. This means that there are acoustic devices like cylindrical objects that can emits a strange infrasound in the distance and possibly alter the behavior of that person half a mile away by pointing this acoustic beam device. Again, high-power microwave technology. As I mentioned, microwave weapon system is the weapon of the future, says Al Gore. Again, is this a coincidence? Battlefield optical munitions, optical imagery, the hologramic image projected in the atmosphere to deceive people, deceive enemy soldiers. So again, some of this could be legitimate for national defense, but what if this technology is applied in civilian atmosphere? I mean, we have the technology to emit an image of a tank in a distant hill where there are no tanks above the hills, maybe an image of an automobile on a highway, lonely highway, maybe there might not be any cars, but yet by tri-dimensional method they could emit the hologramic image of whatever they wished. For example, image of a prophet in the sky, image of maybe Buddha, or Maitreya. We have the technology, but I believe that a lot of these technologies could be used to create an alternative scenario maybe for what I believe to be the coming of the Lord. I believe with all my heart that the Lord is coming soon, and if that happens, I believe that the secular world will have to create an alternative scenario to explain away the real event that is promised in the Bible, known as the rapture or the translation of the believers, which is the blessed hope, which I believe is coming in this generation. Now, let's continue on. One item, see, is a one container sticky forms. I mean, this is basically a lower tech compared to what they were talking about. Application of extremely low frequency, electromagnetic fields, non-lethal weapons, and so on, attended by a select group of individuals, including Janet Reno. A secret meeting held in Los Alamos National Laboratory. Jane's Defense Review, Jane's Defense Weekly, the world's most informed defense magazine. Isn't it strange that it's published in Great Britain and not the United States? The United States does not have a comparable defense magazine like the Jane's Defense Weekly, which is published in Great Britain. Jane's Defense Weekly, published in Great Britain, knows more about American military state-of-the-art technology than any of the American defense magazines. I don't think it's a coincidence. Again, researchers have proven that a lot of the elements that we believe to be some type of a conglomerate worldwide elite that is planning to globalize this world into a one-world system. A lot of these groups are based in places like London. And I don't think it's just a coincidence that Jane's Defense Weekly knows a lot of what's going on. For example, they came out with this article about Stingray electro-optical countermeasure system. Also the optics program, radio frequency and microwave lasers, supercaustics, again that's the infrasound and acoustics, polymers, smoke, and electromagnetic pulse generators, to name a few. Again, very, very low frequency sound as a riot or crowd control agent. Infrasound generators could be turned against humans, causing disorientation, nausea, and vomiting. Now, there are also devices besides this that can cause temporary loss of memory. For example, there are many, many different types of artificial drugs that the military has been working on also. Some of these drugs can make one person lose temporarily, for a few minutes or so, memory. For example, what if the scenario, which I believe will happen, I believe that the Lord is literally coming to catch his followers, believers, in the air. And if that happens, a mass confusion undoubtedly will take over the world. For example, maybe at that time, some of these devices could be utilized so that some type of a calmative effort could be made to calm down the population. Maybe temporary memory loss could be one of these technologies. Possibly infusion of certain chemicals in the water system. A lot of these things can really make a person dizzy or have a temporary loss of memory. Maybe that's how they could create an alternative scenario to make the people drugged so that not to get panicked with disappearance of a certain segment of a population, which I believe is coming. The Bible says we'll be taken literally up in the air to meet the Lord in the air. And that is coming. Again, technology is here to create an alternative scenario to all of this. Jane's Defense Review, or the International Defense Review, also came out with a statement that Los Alamos National Laboratory have been working on the high-power microwave projectiles and so on, and acoustic beams. In fact, when Noriega was captured in Panama, the military attempted to use some of the infrasound system to make him surrender. And this is clearly indicated in International Defense Review. In fact, they probably did use some of the acoustic beams to make him surrender. And the next item is very, very interesting. This is Jane's Defense Electronics came out with a stunning article last year saying that Department of Defense and other intelligence agencies were looking at Russian mind control technology claims. Now, FBI considered testing on Koresh. Now, strangely enough, this article says federal law enforcement officials considered testing a Russian scientist's acoustic mind control device on cultist David Koresh a few weeks before the fiery conflagration that killed the Branch Davidians leader and more than 70 of the followers in Waco, Texas. Defense Electronics has learned. In a series of closed meetings beginning March 17 in suburban northern Virginia with Dr. Igor Smirnov of the Moscow Medical Academy, and he's one of the top authorities on acoustic beam weapons or acoustic weapons. FBI officials were briefed on the Russians' decade-long research on a computerized acoustic device allegedly capable of implanting thoughts in a person's mind without that person being aware of the nature of the thought. You see, in other words, without the person being aware, they can possibly alter the thought process of that person by the acoustic method. This was in Jane's Defense Electronics. Again, some of these are not in the liberal media. We are being brainwashed by the liberal media, especially nowadays. The media has been bombarding throughout the nation and demonizing anybody that talks about the New World Order as, you know, a category of right-wing extremist wackos. And this is the very trick of the liberal media, which is definitely controlled by those people who wish to create a controlled New World Order. Just as it's prophesied in the Bible, a New World Order is going to come. But can we fight against the setup of the New World Order? Personally, I don't think so. The technology is here and now, and we cannot pick up guns to fight against high technology. There's no way. You see, a more efficient time could be spent by witnessing to the people about what's coming. And the Bible says the importance of knowledge is stressed in the Bible. It says that my people perish with lack of knowledge, you see. Perishing with lack of knowledge. And this is more dangerous. I mean, we cannot fight literally by taking up machine guns against the New World Order. Besides, the biblical prophecy will not be realized. We cannot stop the biblical prophecy from being realized because that is God's plan. And again, we have to occupy ourselves every day until the coming and witness and keep working. And we cannot just hide in the mountains and wait for His coming. We got to occupy ourselves. Temptations and trials will come. Tribulation will come, but we got to still fight spiritually and ask God to protect us spiritually. Now, Los Angeles Times business section had an article just last year about the eye in the sky. Eye in the sky. Notice the strange occultic symbol on the back of the dollar bill, the all-seeing eye. You see, this is another symbolism. Did you know that right now there are at least 985 satellites going around the Earth, this globe? 985 as of this moment. 350 of which we know nothing about, and they are called the spy satellites. And out of those spy satellites, 24 were designated several years ago to be part of the SDI system, the Global Positioning System. With these particular 24 satellites, they can track any transponders that connect with the satellite system. Even though the transponder may be small, they can locate, pinpoint the exact location of the transponder, whether you are in a jungle in Africa or on the ocean or in the desert. As long as you have that particular transponder, they can spot exactly where you are. And in fact, Los Angeles airport was the site of an experiment about 5 to 6 years ago, in which an airplane from Denver, I believe, came to Los Angeles airport with 3 or 4 pilots inside, and they weren't touching any of the instruments. They were setting up everything on the GPS, Global Positioning System, autopilot. And that airplane landed safely and successfully at Los Angeles airport, LAX. Pilots weren't touching any of the cockpit instruments. Everything was done autopilot, and they were being directed by the Global Positioning System, and the plane just missed the mark by only about 50 to 75 feet. And this is a global positioning system. Now, satellite imagery. Now, did you know that on a clear day, and this was in 1982, by the way, a shot image from a satellite, for example, in this one, first magnification from the sky shows what looks like a lake right here, Lake Michigan, okay? Second magnification easily shows the 10,000 square miles of Lake Michigan and what looks like a city, and that's Chicago. And then third magnification clearly sees the city of Chicago and Lake Michigan. Each magnification picture is 10 times the one preceding, and next one is this is the heart of Chicago, shown in the fourth magnification. This view is the same as that seen by jet airplane passengers from 18,000 feet. Now, that's not surprising. Now, the fifth magnification of the satellite photo appears as though it was taken only from 1,800 feet, and boats in the marinas and cars and the stadium are easy to define, and so on. Now, this is not so amazing. Now, the next magnification, you can clearly make out the man sunning himself in the park just off of the yacht club, and you can see the marina and the yacht. Now, this may not be so stunning, but the next magnification 7 times gives us the equivalent of a picture taken at 20 feet. And you can start seeing this man sunning himself right there. Now, the man sunning himself can be unmistakably identified in this 8th magnification, if you choose to. Even the books he reads are now public knowledge. And you can see the belt and the jeans in his hand. Now, this is not so amazing compared to this startling photo. It becomes apparent that scars, identifying marks, could easily be confirmed if the powers that be really wanted them. And you know darn well that they want this type of a surveillance. Scars. Now, the final mind-boggling picture, magnified 10 times from the original satellite view, appears as if it were taken from only 1 centimeter away. Again, you can see the amazing nature of satellite computerized photo enhancement technology. And this was in 1982. And granted that it had to be on a perfect clear day, you see. But this was in 1982. So imagine right now what they have. Did you know that recently a satellite was launched just a few days ago, a Titan IV rocket, in a series of launching of all these satellites. And the main purpose of this satellite is to be able to detect private telephone conversations from the air. And this is a fact. This has been going on since last year. Now, farmers in Europe now can't hide anything, I mean anywhere as a matter of fact. European satellite imagery to track agricultural fraud. Okay, they know what type of crops they're making, the farmers, how much he's making, and so on. This is all controlled right now. We're living in a highly controlled society, folks, just as prophesied in the Bible. USA Today News, April of last year, amazing article. Spies Sky Spy, a Titanfall rocket today is expected to deploy a long-delayed new generation spy satellite, code name Aquacade. Again, the Navy, water. Again, this is a symbolism. Aquacade, that can eavesdrop on private phone and radio conversations. Its antenna is bigger than a football field. And let me just digress for a moment. I mentioned this project Aquacade, again a symbology, the Navy, U.S. Navy Research Laboratory and so on. Some of the military documents contain the very code word, an occultic code word called magic, M-A-J-I-C, or M-A-G-I-C, or M-A-J-I, magi, or even majority, or majestic. These are symbolic code words. It's an occultic term from ancient days, meaning wise men. The word magi means wise men, as in the day of Christ's birth, wise men came to, towards Bethlehem. You see, the secret government has been cleverly using symbology. A friend of mine, American Airlines pilot, was flying over the helicopter facility in Marana, Arizona, which I explained to you just 2 years ago. And he was renting a private plane and flying over that black helicopter facility, and he was listening to the communication system. And the code word that he had heard was magic. Again, the multi-jurisdictional force, MJ force. I don't think it's a coincidence. The MJ documents, I don't think it's a coincidence. It could have been a false disinformation ploy by the government. But nevertheless, they have used the symbology, majestic. Did you know that the Bilderbergers allegedly met in Paris in the 60s, I believe, in a hotel, and the hotel's name was Majestic. Again, Magi, MJ, majority, MJ, multi-jurisdiction. These are, I don't think, coincidence. It's some type of a setup. Now, they can affect any autos from the air and disengage electromagnetic system, engine mechanism. That's not a big feat right now. It's capable, it's possible in case of national emergency. Defense Intelligence Agency plans global data network. Again, their purpose is to unify and link the world's data system, data bank, and establish, for example, at Area 51, Dreamland, the data repository establishment and management land, unifying the world's computer systems. For example, by launching this BEAST, or Battle Engagement Area Simulator Tracker, which I explained before, by the U.S. Navy Research Laboratory, possibly linking maybe European data control system from Belgium, and linking all North America, Asia in a tripartite or trilateral global system that's coming. USA Today says National Citizen ID proposed. It's coming. National identification is coming. CNN service headquarters had this article, National Health Plan is tracked. The use of multi-automated reader card, MARC, or mark, as the Defense Department's smart card, and that can track everything. It follows closely with the national efforts to define universal health benefits and access, and so on. It's coming. A controlled society is here. The National Police Agency in Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand, is considering introduction of IC smart card driver's licenses that could be used as identity cards or even to start a car. Bangkok, Thailand. And as you know, in the Far East, in Singapore, Singapore already is a half-controlled society, just like a New World Order. It's the first steps, and this is what's going to probably take place in this country, if not the entire world. That's what the Bible says. A one-world system will be appearing in the very possibly next few short years. And let me say to you that this is not just a figment of imagination, because this is indicated in the Bible that we are living in turbulent and perilous times right now. And I believe that the series of emergencies, I believe, will be coming. Crisis creation. And this is definitely an old trick of the secret occultic government to create a crisis to unify by force certain groups of people. Crisis creation. For example, I believe with all my heart that there is a secret government and a secret agencies. As you know, there are so many agencies in this country, and I'm proud to be a naturalized citizen of this great country, and I love this country tremendously. But loving this country and fearing the government or the central government, that's not an equivalent thing, you see. You can love this country, but we can fear the encroachment of a large centralized government. And this is what's happening right now. I believe that right now several agent provocateurs, if you may, of several agencies are infiltrating religious cults worldwide. For example, in Japan recently there has been this a cult. It's strangely enough, it's a Buddhistic cult, and they were even talking about Armageddon. You know, the agents sent in to infiltrate these cults are provoking some type of dissension and problems, and encouraging these religious cults to do some extremist things, and thus create the distorted image of anybody that talks about Armageddon. Did you know that this Japanese cult is a Buddhistic cult, but yet they talk about Armageddon, and they think that they have to arm themselves? But again, is this just coincidence, or maybe a planned thing by the secret government to infiltrate religious cults and cause dissension and bring them to do some extremist type of actions to cause discredit to any religious movement even? In fact, in United States right now, if you are a fundamentalist Christian, you are placed into this category of right-wing extremist wacko. And this is a fact. Again, is this a coincidence? I don't think so. This is a carefully planned plan of what I believe to be a multi-effort worldwide to bring about a new world order. And I don't think it's very mature to think that one group, one particular group, is behind all this. I think it's a conglomerate effort of many of the world's secret groups, highly occultic in nature, to form simultaneously some type of a direction, and eventually out of this conglomerate effort will arise a person that will probably deceive the entire world, namely the Antichrist. This is, I believe that this is the moment of time. We're not talking about 30 to 40 years away. We're talking about possibly within the next few years, possibly maybe within the next 24 months, or possibly within this year, maybe in the fall of this year, or maybe the fall of next year. The reason I say this is because I believe if the biblical realization of the translation of the believers in the air would take place, as promised in the Bible, I would imagine that the most year, or maybe the fall of next year. The reason I say this is because I believe if the biblical realization of the translation of the believers in the air would take place, as promised in the Bible, I would imagine that the most ideal time for God is to do His thing symbolically on like a Feast of the Trumpets, or maybe Rosh Hashanah, or Holy Season. And again, maybe the fall, maybe we can expect something, but we cannot set up dates. But yet, we believe that it could happen this fall, or maybe next fall, but definitely within our generation. When Israel was created in 1948, and I think it was definitely a miraculous thing, provided, of course, granted that there are many evil-minded elite, even in the state of Israel. In fact, the state of Israel's development in 1948 could have been also engineered by extreme Zionist elements which had nothing to do with the Bible. But despite that fact, God can use any incident and any human errors to fulfill His promise. And this is the reason why I believe that the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, despite the human error and despite the humanistic effort on some of those that are maybe working on the secret government, the cabal, maybe the Zionistic cabal, despite these evil intentions maybe on the part of some human elements, God can still use some of this to fulfill His promise. God's ways are mysterious ways. We don't understand, but we believe that it's a biblical fulfillment of prophecy, and we are the generation. The countdown began in 1948, and as I've been showing you, just 1 year before the State of Israel's birth, a lot of strange things began to happen in this country and elsewhere in the world. I believe that maybe the devil or Satan knew that his countdown began, and maybe this is the reason why they could have begun the materialization for deception just around the time of the State of Israel. 1 year before, 1947, when all of these strange things began to take place. The beginning of a long series of a manipulation or a deceptive manipulation by the secret government, preparing us and sensitizing us for something that is about to happen. So we could be two-sided. We could be in the middle of a two-sided battle to control our destiny. But I believe that God's ways will be victorious. And according to the Bible, we have all the powers. We don't have to be afraid of what's coming up, because the Bible says that we have Christ. We have the shield weapons, spiritual weapons that surround us. We cannot be afraid of what's going on. We cannot be paranoid about all of these things. But again, this is the moment. This is it. We're living in the time, and we're living the most exciting time of history at this very moment.
Since 1995, over 26,000 international students from all walks of life joined the British investigators' training courses in anomalous phenomena within ufology, paranormal and supernatural, parapsychological study, anomalous phenomena, science, hypnotherapy, spiritualism, astrology, astronomy, cryptozoology, and many other areas. Our certified self-study courses will teach you how to assess, analyze, engage, formulate, document, and be cognizant of all types of phenomena, suitable for light workers and starseeds, curious personalities and inquisitive minds, skeptics alike and truth seekers. For more information, please visit www.stellaruniversity.com.
And thus I began researching on one of the most fascinating secret facilities known, namely Area 51 in Nevada. And I will show you that we are being conditioned for an upcoming event closely tied in with biblical prophecy. I would like to begin the slide presentation of Area 51 and the secrets behind this facility, which is also known as dreamland. And I will show you that dreamland is not just a nickname, it has a meaning. In fact, it's my contention that dreamland is an acronym for Data Repository Establishment and Management Land. Let's see the slide. Area 51 is located in a vast desert stretch of land north of Las Vegas, Nevada. This location, known as Area 51, occupies only one portion of this vast stretch of area, hundreds of square miles, called Nevada Test Site. Among the military pilots at Nellis Air Force Base, which is located right next to Las Vegas, this particular area, Area 51, is known as the box, or the red square, or the black box. And none of the military pilots from Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas are allowed to fly over this particular area, known as Area 51. This area, also known as R-4808N by commercial airline chart of pilots, comprises of the Groom Lake facility and also the alleged facility known as Sector 4 right alongside the Papoose Mountains, which is about 10 miles away from each other. This entire area is known as Area 51 or Dreamland. Government maps do indicate that there is such an area, but yet the government itself denies to the public that there is such an area. Government maps clearly indicate the facility and part of the schematics of Groom Lake facility and Sector 4 area, clearly indicating the schematic, part of the schematic maps of the buildings at Groom Lake complex. Again, Sector 4 or S4 area, south of the Groom Lake complex. Air Force maps also indicate that there is an Area 51, part of Nevada Test Site, next to the Nellis Range, and also EG&G Corporation. And surprisingly enough, there is an agency right there that is also involved. It's the FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency. These agencies are all involved in this secret program at Area 51. Again, Nellis Air Force Base charts, frequency charts shows the frequency for Dreamland, which is associated with the stealth technology. Dreamland, stealth, Department of Energy, all under Nellis control. Again, Dreamland is an acronym for Data Repository Establishment and Management Land, which I will explain in a few more minutes. It's an amazing facility. U.S. Geological Survey maps also show these two lakes. However, on this particular map, I have drawn a straight line over Groom Lake to indicate a 50,000-foot runway, the world's longest runway. Again, as I mentioned, Groom Lake and S4, or Sector 4 facility, the alleged facility, only is about 10 or 11 miles apart. These buildings right by the Papoose Lake are our estimation of these buildings. You cannot see these buildings from the satellite, so it's just our estimation. Now, in 1985, the state of Nevada passed the request from the federal government to close off a total of 90,000 acres of public land surrounding these facilities. And again, the reason for that being that in the 80s and 70s and 60s, a lot of hikers and hunters happened to find these facilities. They have seen some strange lights maneuvering over the skies, over Groom Lake. And again, so 1985, the government closed off all these Groom ranges and also the Nevada test site, and again, Area 51, Groom Lake complexes. Yet, if you call the Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas, they will deny that such an area exists. In 1968, several persons happened to find this facility while they were hiking on one of those hills that belong to the looming Groom Mountains. And they happened to stumble upon this strange facility built right next to a dry lake. And this is a 1968 photo showing some strange antennas and some hangars by the lake. You can almost see the, you can actually see the chain link area right here. This is a semi-dry lake. And in 1968, there were already many hangars around this facility in this on this lake. Now, frequency charts of Nellis Air Force Base definitely tell you that the facility exists. These are all the ranges of Nellis Air Force Base. For example, range 61, range 62, range 5, range 12, and so on. And also, there are frequency charts for Groom Lake military operations area. This whole facility, of course, is a military operations area. Again, you see Dreamland right there. And again, the strange thing is that this is a conglomerate facility mainly conducted by Lockheed, but also other defense contractors. For example, Los Alamos National Laboratory of New Mexico is heavily involved in this program. Sandia Corporation, a huge defense corporation in Albuquerque, New Mexico, is very much involved in this facility. Also, Papoose Ranges and Jumble Hills area, so that nobody can see these facilities from the horizon. The closest place you can watch the ongoings is on Highway 375 and also nearby dirt roads, which still belong to the public land. This area, again, indicates the militarized zone, restricted area. Again, Area 51 is towards the southwest of this area. Now, this area is all part of the Bureau of Land Management, the public land. We have every right to be on any of the public lands. Yet, there are military sensors being planted on any of these public dirt roads that lead to Area 51. Of course, this is illegal. No question that they are hiding something. On top of Bald Mountain, on the Groom Mountain Range, there's a 360-degree view of the entire area, and from Bald Mountain, they're using some amazing high-tech equipment. They can detect any motion 30 miles away, 360 degrees. And of course, 15 miles away from this area, they can detect how many persons are there in the car, parked right next to the Highway 375 at any given moment. In 1968, Russian satellite photos succeeded in taking the picture of the Groom Lake facility from the air, indicating a long runway. Again, it's strange that the Russians, the Soviet Union in 1968, knew about this facility, while the American public wasn't aware of this facility. This is the negative enhancement of the facility taken by the Russian satellite in 1968, and at that time there were many, many buildings already in this facility, including many hangars. In 1980,